What's going on, everybody? This is the Tom Rowland Podcast, brought to you by Starbright. Starbright makes amazing products for your boat, RV, everything. If you've got a boat that you like, invest in Starbright products. My favorite's the Salt Off and the Deck Cleaner. I really like those two products. Do yourself a favor and take care of your boat with Starbright. Today, we are going back through some of the episodes that I have found to be the most meaningful, the most important, the most impactful of the 883 episodes that we've filmed here on the Tom Rowland Podcast. And I say 883 that we've filmed. Many we did not film, and some of them I was trying to do it by myself with a handy cam. Didn't have anyone to help me edit these things. So there are a couple that are coming up in this series that have never been seen before. Never seen before footage. The audio format came out, but we're going to go back through some of my favorites. The reason why I like some of these podcasts that I'm selecting is because of one thing that is a common theme throughout the entire series that we're doing here. And that is that basically anyone can accomplish anything. So many of my favorite podcasts that I've had the opportunity to interview these particular people were able to do something where they didn't have any experience, they didn't have any knowledge, they didn't have any money, they didn't have any connections, and yet they did something that they really wanted to do, and in many cases they became one of the best in the world at it. And in other cases, there's a common theme of how anyone can accomplish anything. No one's too far gone to change their life, change the direction of their life, their trajectory of their life. No one is too far gone to even change their physical condition. And that's what this one is all about today. Diamond Dallas Page was a professional wrestler, and he was a world champion. He was very, very popular. After he finished wrestling, he started something called DDPY. DDPY, it used to be DDP Yoga. Now it's called DDPY. What Diamond Dallas Page has done is absolutely incredible. I wanted to have him on the podcast because I had seen this transformation that he helped this gentleman by the name of Arthur Boorman make. This gentleman was in terrible condition from being a paratrooper and having messed up knees, messed up back. He gained a ton of weight. He was walking on crutches. He was obviously in a really bad state. And many yoga instructors, many physical instructors wouldn't even see him. And he looked up broken back yoga, and Diamond Dallas Page popped up on a Google search. He made contact, and just like he's done so many other times, Diamond Dallas Page did not turn him away. DDP invited him in, started helping him. And this man's transformation is nothing short of miraculous. He's done it with many other people, including a Netflix documentary on the redemption of Jake the Snake Roberts, another professional wrestler that was in truly terrible condition, turned it all around thanks to DDP and his own work. He had to put in his own work too, but he needed a guide. He needed an instructor, and that was DDP. He's done this with many, many other people that are not famous. And the transformations are incredible. Most recently, he's been working with professional boxer Butterbean. And Butterbean, if you know who Butterbean is, he's a big guy. And that all that weight, carrying all that weight for his entire life has really been hard on his joints, on his back, on his knees, on his hips. And he also went to DDP. And just like he's done with everyone else, he welcomes him in and starts slow. And he has made a miraculous transformation as well. No one is too far gone. You can start anywhere, including in the bed. Many people are physically incapable of getting out of bed. DDP works with them to help them to get out of bed and start to make this transformation. I was fortunate enough to make contact with Diamond Dallas Page, go to his house, spend the entire day with him, do his entire DDPY program with him, talk about recovery, mobility, aging, all of these different things, and also hear his story, not only about DDPY, but how he rose through the ranks of professional wrestling to become a world champion at that, and now he is doing the same thing with helping other people. So it's my pleasure to bring back this episode with Diamond Dallas Page, DDP. Here we go.
Hey guys, it's me, DDP, Diamond Dallas Page, the king of Butterbean, the master of the diamond cutter, the three-time world champion, WWE Hall of Famer, and founder and CEO of DDP Yoga, better known today as DDPY. Why? I'll tell you why. Because I want people to stop calling it just yoga. And you are on the Tom Rowland Show.
Somehow I knew you were going to do that perfectly. Somehow I knew. For the guy that's been accused of being too over the top for professional wrestling, I knew you would do that.
It's so funny because my wife, Paige, her first name is actually Paige. So now she's Paige. But before, her last name was McMahon. Like, no relation to Vince. Like,
oh, really?
Yeah, no relation.
Yeah, you got to clarify that.
Yeah, 100%. But she hears it. Like, that's my opening to every cameo that I do, because I got to have a little bit of that before I break down, and then I talk about it. Like, my cameos, man, they're like 8, 10, 12. They've been as much as 15 minutes because I care. So many of the people who do my program want to know about it. They come and get cameos from me. So Paige will just break into it like she could do the whole opening.
Well, you've got it down to it's very refined, and you were always a great showman in professional wrestling. So there may be somebody out there that doesn't know who you are.
I'm sure.
But I've been a fan. I grew up in Chattanooga, Tennessee. That's the home of Memorial Auditorium. You probably went through there many times. You might have been the person that I saw get hit with a hot dog rotisserie when Dusty Rhodes spills out into the lobby and somebody got hit with a hot dog rotisserie. I was like, man, that is cool. I mean, you hit him with a hot dog rotisserie. That is, you're not going to see that in the big leagues. That's Georgia Championship right there.
Yeah.
Anyway, wrestling was always on TV. We only had 3 channels. Saturday morning, that's what you watch. I watched fishing shows and I watched professional wrestling. I became a professional fisherman because I'm obviously not big enough. I mean, I could be Rey Mysterio Jr. or somebody.
He wasn't that big, but he was a bad SOB boy.
What an athlete. I mean, incredible.
He would have been a gold medal. I don't care what part of gymnastics.
Or a Cirque du Soleil athlete or something.
Right. Either one. I mean, the guy's still doing it. And it's a funny story about when I broke in, to be a wrestler, I was 35 and a half. And that year coming in, nobody worked harder than me. I knew I'm going to win the Rookie of the Year. But a friend of mine named Eric Watts, his dad came in, ran the promotion WCW. So he got this huge push at the end of the year. He was the Rookie of the Year on PWI. So there's another one called Dave Meltzer's. And Dave's like, I know I'm winning that Rookie of the Year that year. And when I look, I'm like, who's Rey Mysterio? Now, Rey at the time, I'm 36. Rey's maybe 15. But he's been wrestling for 3 years already in Mexico. And when he finally comes into WCW, I'm like, Rey Mysterio's here? Oh, I want to see that cat. So I walk out there, and, his match is just about to start. And I see this guy doing all this crazy flying around. I'm like, man, I was second by a long shot. He's one of the best ever in the world.
What he could do was incredible. And what all professional wrestlers do. I mean, like on this show, we've talked about wrestling. I was a high school wrestler, and my boys wrestled, and I was a wrestling coach, and I've been a wrestling parent, and that wrestling is obviously different. And some people are like, why do you like professional wrestling? I like professional wrestling because it was such a part of me growing up. Like it's what you watched on TV. And then in the late 70s, the 80s, the 90s, the 2000s, man, wrestling was
Huge.
It was huge,
man.
huge. But they also brought in all these societal kind of themes, like Russia versus the United States,
sure.
all that stuff, right? Like they just did all that stuff, and so it was like you would turn it on, and it was like this commentary about what was going on in the world, as much as it was a like an entertainment thing.
Well, wrestling is such a huge part of pop culture.
Yeah.
And if you really look at the NFL, which is probably one of the biggest organizations in the world, makes the most money, probably one of them anyway, like they never had any fireworks. They never had any stories, on the guys. Like that's what we create. We create characters and stories that people can connect with. I mean, think about it for a second. Everybody in that arena in the last 20 years anyway, they know that we know that they know that we know that if me and you are both about to walk out there and wrestle, we know who's going to win. How do you make them care?
Right.
And that's where the character development really comes into play. And my career in the beginning, we talked about it earlier. I was too over the top for professional wrestling when I was a manager and speaking for guys. But so they took me away from that at 35 and a half. And that's when I started to train to wrestle. And in the beginning, you're trying to find out who you're going to be. And what I really figured out was when Paige Joseph Falkenberg, which was my real name before I changed it to Dallas Page, when Paige Joseph Falkenberg stopped trying to be this bigger than life wrestling persona, and Diamond Dallas Page started to take on the real life characteristics of Paige Joseph Falkenberg, man, my career started to take off. And I did the NWO turn on those guys and blew the roof off. And then the feud of the year, 1997, is me and the Macho Man. Oh yeah, Randy Savage. Like it changed my life on a different level. And Randy, he saw that I just put all this work in over the last 5 years, and I was connecting with the people, and he asked to work with me. And then, he ended up putting me over in the middle. I get the 1, 2, 3 in the win. That doesn't happen without Randy Savage saying, it's time. It's your time.
It's interesting. I mean, when I think that what is interesting about that story and just professional wrestling for people that don't really know that much about it is the grind that goes into this and wrestling day after day after day, wrestling at 2:00 in the afternoon and then wrestling in a different city at 7:00 at night and then getting in a car and going someplace else. And through all of that time, you're also with enormous people that are good, excellent at what they do, but everybody can make a mistake, right?
Sure.
Like you come off the top rope and you're supposed to kind of miss, but you don't. And and there's a lot of injuries.
You can't fake gravity. Like Randy would jump off the top rope. That was his thing, and drop an elbow on you. Now, I'm sure earlier in his career, he landed a lot on his hip and didn't kill the guy as much. By the time he got to me, I mean, I'm 40. Well, 40, I just turned 41, and my career is insane at that time. Randy's 44. I'm his crash pad.
Yeah.
There was the first time he landed on me, I seriously felt like the left side of my rib cage just broke open and all my guts might have been splashing onto because you can't fake gravity. And he would jump. So he's good 16, 15 feet in the air when he's coming down. And it got to so bad that I started peeing blood like for weeks. And so I go see my doctor. I'm not going to go to see their doctor because they're going to pull me off. Mm-hmm. And so I go see him and he goes, dude, you need to rest your kidneys, and I'm in the everything what I'd worked for. If I go away, the angle's over, it's done. So
somebody else moves right in there.
So I said to Randy, try landing on my stomach, and one night he overshot me and he landed right on my face. This is our second paper where I'm putting him over now, or he gets the win, so it's the payback. But Randy hit me with the belt. Scott Hall hit me with his finish, and then Randy came off the top. And what had happened is, next thing I know, I'm walking backstage, and I stop, and I look at my wife, who was my valet at the time, Kimberly. I said, baby, did I just wrestle? And she said, what? I said, is it Nitro? Did I just wrestle? She goes, stop it, Paige. You're scaring me. I go, what the hell? What am I doing? Where am I? What happened? She goes, it's the Great American Bash. You just wrestled Randy Savage.
Wow.
I said, what happened? Now, again, complete blackout. She said that, and this, if you watch that match on YouTube or on the Peacock, where the WWE they play everything on there, it's their network on Peacock. If you watch it though, the referee up till that point was screaming, "Go home!" Because when you have a 3-hour show and you get the 3 hours in 1 second, it goes to the next show. So if we haven't finished that match, they're going to have to pay back millions of dollars.
Yeah, right.
So they're screaming, "Go home." Randy finally came off the top rope. This is what it shows like on YouTube. And 1, 2, 3, Scott comes in. Scott Hall grabs him and raises Randy's hands with the ref, because there's no DQ match. That's why they could all beat the hell out of me. In the background, you will see me starting to sit up, and I go back down. Thank God. It goes to black, which means show's over. I sat up again like the Undertaker would do. They don't know it. I get to my feet. I stagger. I fall through the ropes, and they see it. And I give them both the "you're number one" sign. Walk down the aisle, and she says, and here we are. And I'm like, oh, whoa. Like, this is fighting in the back stuff. Like, this would be like if Clint Eastwood, Sylvester Stallone, and John Wayne all went boom, 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 and you pull a Tony Montana and come out, all those times Tony Montana, Pacino got shot, he never went down.
Right.
That's what it would be like. Well, Pacino's the hero over there. He's the star of the show. Over there, this is like, my job is to stay down. Well, I don't know, but I know we're going to have a problem backstage. So I go right in the locker room, and I stuck a table in front of me. And they kick that door in, and roar. I'm like, dude, you knocked me out. I had no idea. Roar. I go, threw the table head away. I go, do you really think I would do that? Do you really think so? Let's go. They walked away. And then I started feeling something right here. And it felt like a pain. I'm reaching my mouth. There's nothing in there. I'm going, what the hell is that? Then I take a shower. It's a little bigger. By the time we left, Kimberly and I left, we went right to the hospital. And by that time, it's like a golf ball.
Wow.
In my mouth. The doctor says, you got a serious concussion here. Now, we don't know about concussions back then. You know, like, hey, get tough up, boy, get back in.
Rung your bell.
Right, like, get back in the game. So, I had to wrestle Bret Hart the next night, and I'm going over. So, if I just did the job, meaning put Randy over, I want to win today, because even though it's predetermined, nobody wants to lose. Right. Nobody wants to lose.
And you got to do that day after day, after month after month after month.
Let's tell you what happened. We were in the United Center in Chicago, and people, they never see the entertainers come in, because they come in through the back, and there's a huge roll. They bring all the semis and all that, and they bring all the equipment. So by this time, my face now looks like a chipmunk. Okay, and just on this side, and I'm waiting there because Randy's got to show up at some point. And here he comes, and I'm just sitting there on like one of those big speaker boxes, and he walks up to me and he goes, sorry, brother. He walked off.
Sorry, I broke your face.
Sorry, I broke your face.
So, I mean, that's Is that the beginning of, I mean, your story is that you're taking off and you have a real serious injury with your neck and
Well, it's back.
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 You're back.
My career had already taken off. I started in 91 as a wrestler. I was 35 and a half. Worked like 6 months, tore my rotator cuff, and they got rid of me because my contract was partially for the manager and then partially for the wrestler. And that's where Jake Roberts took me under his wing. And that's really the main reason between him and Dusty Rhodes. Without Dusty Rhodes, there is no Diamond Dallas Page. I had two of the greatest mentors you could ever dream of. And Jake took me under his wing. And 11 months later, I was back in WCW. And it took another 3 years, to finally pop. So 96, at the end of 96, my career explodes. 97, 98, I'm on top of the world. I've headlined 13 main event pay-per-views. I've lived the dream on an insane level. Worked with, when it was me and it was Hogan was going to wrestle with Rodman. And they were on the Tonight Show. And I've already set this all up. Malone and me are going to come in from the wings. Rodman and Malone were just in the championship of the NBA. Yeah. We come in, throw down the chairs, and shoot our angle on the Tonight Show with Jay Leno in the middle. That's how crazy my life was at that time. And then going into January, I ruptured my L4 and L5 so badly that 3 spine specialists told me, you're done. Now, over that time, 97 and 98, I had a contract. My contract was like for $275,000 and $295,000, which is a lot of money. Not where I was at. Everybody I'm with, everyone making 7 figures. I'm making that. And by the time you pay for all your stuff, it's not really a lot of money when you end up, because you pay for everything but your airfare. So bottom line is that I finally got paid, and now they're telling me my career's over. And that's where DDP yoga comes from, because I'm the guy who wouldn't be caught dead doing yoga the first 42 years of my life. Yeah. And just because that's the way I was raised, my boys, my buddies.
Right.
We made fun of you.
When we're looking at these pictures, like there you are with Goldberg and the Ultimate Warrior and Roddy Piper. I mean, none of those guys are doing yoga.
No,
they're doing some other things. Yeah. They're not doing yoga.
Not doing yoga.
So how did, like, you're in this place where you're really probably questioning, maybe you with your incredible mind, and you're able to believe in yourself so much that you can come back, but you got doctors telling you that you can't do it.
But in the beginning, I'm like anybody else.
Right.
Emotional gravity, like, pulling me down. So I honestly believe everyone has to, when they get something like, it looks like the worst thing ever happened to you. Like, I just finally got paid and everything I worked for, now you're telling me it's over? Like, everyone. Tom Brady's lost Super Bowls. You know what I mean? LeBron James has lost championships. They're going down, but they ain't going to stay there. And that's the key that I try to teach everybody. You just don't stay there. The Rock, Trump, Obama, Oprah. I mean, everybody, I don't care how big you are, goes down. The key is the real players. They don't stay there. Like, okay, how can I turn this around? And yoga was never the call to me. My first wife, Kimberly, who I'm still best friends with, my wife Paige and her are best friends. I mean, we just have a great relationship. I'm best friends with her husband. We all work together. And a lot of people go, how can you do that? Because we have a great relationship. But the biggest thing is, like, you can't let the emotional gravity own you. You've got to turn it around. And it was Kimberly who said to me, she said, honey, you should really try yoga. And I was like, F that. I'm not doing yoga. And she was like, all right, and the next night she said it again to me. She's like, I'm the first guy to ice his body. I'm the first guy to do constant chiropractic, deep muscle massage therapy. I mean, organic juicing. 25 years ago, I was doing that. And you won't do yoga. I'm like, all right. So the thing about yoga 25 years ago, there was no modifications. I created those for myself, had to figure them out. And all of my workouts, all my early stuff are filled with super easy, challenging, and everything in between. And I'm always saying, step in, lower a knee, don't make it so hard, get through it, build your strength physically, build your strength mentally. That's how I teach everything. And going back to that, in the beginning, doing the yoga, I had to figure it out. In the first 3 weeks, I felt a significant difference. And I was like, wow, this yoga stuff, this is real.
Well, the difference that you felt, was it like just overall you just felt a little bit better? Or were some pains just kind of going away, or you're walking downstairs better, or like what was your first thing that you noticed?
The first thing I felt was more mobility, and not as, like, okay. Because again, I'm only 42 then. I'm not like I'm today going to be 66, And again, I'm eating so clean back then, but still not as much as I would be today. Because eating the food has so much to do with how you feel physically. And I just started to feel like this is going to help. Now, I'm also doing rehab. And I've rehabbed by that time both shoulder surgeries and both knee surgeries. So I know a lot about rehab. And there's one thing that God has kind of given me some inside cue on, and it's how to break up scar tissue. Because it's breaking up the scar tissue, it's what helps to create the mobility, but also takes away the pain. Now, breaking up the scar tissue is really uncomfortable. So it's not like an easy ride to get there. So one night before I go to bed, this is after about 3 weeks or so in between there, I'm getting ready to go to bed, and I'm doing the, just some yoga positions and going from one to another. I'm just going to do the rehab too. So maybe why don't I just mix the rehab with the yoga stuff? I'm like, wow, that kind of flows pretty good. And again, I'm not lifting weights because I can't, so I want to be able to do some kind of body and body instead of doing just push-ups. And we did them today, just lower for 3 seconds, hold 3 inches off the ground for 3 seconds, push up for 3 seconds, lower for 3, hold for 3, then go into cobra, then into down dog. And in the beginning, I had to do them on my knees. But eventually I get off my knees. Eventually 3-second push-ups became 5, 5 became 10, 10 became sets of 10. Now my body is feeling better. I'm getting stronger, which is helping my mind feel I can do this. So now I'm going to start doing some cardio. Not even really thinking I'm doing cardio, and I'm sweating my ass off. I don't really realize that mentally because I'm thinking there's no cardio in yoga or rehab or even calisthenics, but there is. If you're not wearing a heart monitor, you have no idea though. But I always wore a heart monitor probably the last 3 years of right before I blown my back out, because when I would get on the Stairmaster, and this I got from, you know who Mark Allen is? Mark Allen. He's the Michael Jordan of triathletes. He won the Ironman at 32, 33, 34, didn't at 35. He scouted down a guy named Phil Mathitone, Dr. Phil Mathitone, and he was training a lot of triathletes. Mathitone said, put this heart monitor on, go do the exact same workout you always do, and then come back here and, you're 35 less 180 is 145. Because he's a super athlete, add 10 clicks to that. Don't go over 155. Go do the same workout you'd normally do. He came back and he's like, Doc, this isn't going to work. He's like, what are you talking about?
He's walking.
It's like I barely broke a sweat. My time sucked. My mile time was 8:29, I believe it was. This whole article that Mark Allen wrote. And he said, dude, you got to trust me. Over the next couple months, you're going to see that change. And what ended up happening is Mark Allen staying at 155. I'm sure he boosted a little bit at times, but staying at 155 pretty much at a time. He took it out of the 8s, sevens, sixes. He finished his time a 5:15 mile.
Wow.
Went back and won the Ironman, the hardest one that there is out in Hawaii, 36, 37, 38, and retired. So when I read that article, I realized, okay, I'm at the time, say I'm 35. You know, I'm not going to go over it. 35 less 180. Actually, it wasn't 35. It was more 38. So 38 less 180 is 142. Add 10 clicks to it. I would never go over 155, 152. Because Stairmaster, I'm doing the roller coaster up and down and up and down. And when I was doing it before I started doing the heart monitor thing, what did I do? Didn't blow anything, but it was a muscle spasm. I would constantly be blowing myself out. Read that article. I put myself right in that zone. I never did it again. So now I'm coming back from injury. Now I'm 42, not 38. I'm not taking my heart rate over 130. And I get on a Stairmaster and I start. I'm doing pretty good. Go about 20, 30 minutes, get on the mat, get to a sequence while I'm doing some 10-second push-ups and go cobra, down dog, pounce. And I look over and my heart rate's at 128, 129. I haven't been on the Stairmaster in 15, 20 minutes. So then I just went into Road Warrior 2, what I call, and I grabbed imaginary cables. Now my heart rate's down to about 110. And I just start pulling, just like I would if it was heavyweight with a slow burn movement, and pulling 3, 2, 1. I'm watching go 111, 112, 114, 117. And I'm squeezing 118. And then I let go. I just let the muscles go. 117, 116, 115. And that's what we were doing. Pull 3, 2, 1, push 3, 2, 1, creating the weight in my mind and in my muscle while I'm in a lunge, while I'm in Road Warrior position. Like, so you didn't really think about how long you were in that position, did you?
It seemed like a long time. It didn't seem quite as long as the push-ups, but it seemed like kind of a long time. No, I get it. I think that's really, really cool. And you're able to develop flexibility and strength without beating up your body so much.
Cardio.
Right. And cardio. So when did this become like a program? Like, well, to get back to it, you were able to recuperate yourself.
It's less than 3 months. I think it was like 2 months and 30 days or whatever.
2 months and 30 days after all the doctors told you there's no way you're going to be able to do it. 2 months and 30 days, you're back ready to give it a shot.
I have to go see Dr. Edwards, who's here in Atlanta first though. They want a clearance. I went back. By that time, I could hold my foot out here like that. By that time, I could put my forehead on my shins. You have to understand, I wasn't doing this 20 minutes a day.
Right.
It started with 20 minutes, then later on 20 minutes. Then it went to 30 minutes. It built up that I was doing 3 hours a day, not at one time. My job is to get back and live the dream, because if I get to 6 months where I'm not in that ring, that contract is gone.
Yeah.
So I wanted to do it in half the time. And again, I'm 42 by that time. Yeah, I'm still 42, but I'm about to turn 43. How many years do I have left? I want to get back as soon as I can, but I want to make sure I'm right. So I got cleared by the doctors. I came back at 42. They said my career was over. At 43, I'm the world champ, which is like an Oscar in our business. So now I'm going to do it for the rest of my life, because I'm still bumping around and taking crazy bumps. And
so where does it go from, this is something that has saved me in my career, and a lot of people might want to keep that a secret, and like, this is my little secret that I'm not going to share with anybody, because it's doing, but you did exactly the opposite. When did this turn into a program that you could share with people, and a program that somebody could follow?
It happened because so many of my buddies, I turned on to it, but they could only do it when they were with me, because there was nothing. It's not yoga. It's the yoga and the rehab and the old school calisthenics and the dynamic resistance or time under tension. No one does it but me. And so I could do it with them, but I couldn't leave him with anything. And then I went to LA and did, because my career, I almost broke my neck after that. And then I was like, okay, it's time for me to say goodbye, and I 46, I retired, and I would come back just to show what I could do at 49. In the meantime, I went to LA and I pursued my acting career, and I've got some really cool things coming up on Netflix. I've got a show called Guardians of Justice, a very dark superhero show that'll probably be the second quarter of this year coming up.
Really?
That took 7 years to happen.
Wow.
7 years.
It's already complete? You've already done it?
It's all done. It's in the can. It's actually on Netflix right now. They just haven't turned it on yet.
Wow.
So whenever they do that, but it took really 20 years. It took 8 years to be an overnight success as a wrestler. 8 years.
Yeah.
It took 8 years for DDP Yoga to become an overnight success, which is 10 years ago this coming May. But for the acting thing, I was doing it the whole time. But at some point I got so bummed out that, again, the emotional gravity start to grab you, because I helped so many people. This is before DDP Yoga. I helped 30 guys get jobs with the company because I'd moved myself up to a position of power that had influence and would help people get the jobs in. But when I went to Hollywood, man, it was so many plastic people, and it really bummed me out. I met some good people, thank God, and those relationships turned into something, but it took time. But at some point I was like, I'm putting my destiny in other people's hands. You need to do something with what I called originally yoga for normal people. That's what I called it. And then it became yoga for regular guys. And eventually, putting that out there, eventually 10 years ago right now, I brought in one of my business partners, Steve Yu. And it's kind of like me and Steve Yu are kind of like Mick Jagger and Keith Richards of fitness. It's like Mick's going to do really well by himself. So is Keith. So is Dallas Page. So is Steve Yu.
But together,
those guys are the Rolling Stones. Yeah. And together, we're DDPY or DDP Yoga. We're changing people's lives on a whole different level. So it took 8 years. And before I made a dime, before May of, I guess it'll be 10 years, when Arthur Borman's video went viral. And I had done that with Arthur in 2007. That's when we did it. And me and his son made a video because his son filmed everything. And, people watched it and loved it, but it didn't move the needle. And in the beginning, I wasn't ready. It's kind of like when I started wrestling in 91, I thought by 94, I'm ready. 95, I'm ready. 96, well, by the end of 96, I was ready. But I thought I was before that, kind of like starting to push what DDP Yoga is. In the beginning, I didn't know anywhere near as much, because you've got to make mistakes. You've got to fall down. You got to pick yourself back up. I don't believe that my God, puts the walls in front of me to keep me out. I believe the walls are put in front of us, see how much we really want it, and how we got to figure out sometimes you can't go through the wall. You might have to go over it or around it, and it might be 3,700 miles to go around it. You just got to keep going. You can't quit. And Arthur, his video, like knowing what I helped him with, a guy who I trained with once. Everything else was just my DVDs and me giving him the inspiration and giving him the food of what to eat, because none of that was applied. He didn't have it then. That would be my next evolution, putting together the DVDs with some inspirational stuff and some how to eat for a really healthy lifestyle. And for Arthur, that was always my, okay, I know what happened there. It's going to turn into something. And Steve Yu, my business partner, who is I create the stories, he tells them. And he had said to me a couple of times, I'm going to redo that Arthur video. And I was like, sure, go ahead. And then one day he did it. And I was in LA at the time. And by this time, I've already like lost my house. I had to sell it for, what do they call it? Short sell it.
Really?
I had no house. Everything I had was, I'm $548,000 in at this point.
Yeah.
Into this DDP yoga thing that hasn't really returned any money. I'm not making any money. So I had like probably $250,000 left. And this is my last 100,000. I probably would have kept going all the way through it, but in my mind, this is it.
You believed in it so strongly.
Yes.
That your last $100,000 you put into that.
Well, I had 250, but 150 was in my IRA.
Right.
But my last 100 that I had in the bank, yeah. And I put it all in. And the first thing I did was grab one of the guys who'd been working with me for free, a guy named Robert McLaren. And he'd been my webmaster. And I said, Robert, I know you hate your job. You hate your boss. I go, what do you make a year? And he told me. I said, I'll match that. And it wasn't a lot of money. I said, I'll match that. And then Steve came in, and Steve was just helping me and put it together. And then I started to pay him too, because he needed money too. And this is a guy who went to Cornell, top of his class, recruited by IBM. He was going to he'd probably be running IBM right now. But that's not what he wanted to do.
Mm-hmm.
He wanted to inspire people. So he was working on this documentary, Inspired the movie. It was like him going to graduate school for self-taught everything. He didn't go to NYU for film, but I'll guarantee you, he knows more than 99% of those guys who did.
Right.
So he comes in and he says, I'm going to redo this video. I'm like, awesome. So I'm in LA at the time. I'm literally packed everything up. You know those pods you have? So you don't have to. So it's in a pod. I can have it delivered anywhere. I don't know where I'm going to end up. I'm pretty sure I'm ending up here in Atlanta, but I'm not positive yet. And so Steve makes up the video and he calls me back. He goes, take a look at it. I'm like, bro, you didn't put DDP yoga anywhere. And he goes, I read this book. He goes, actually, I read the first 3 chapters of how to get a video to go viral. And I said, yeah. And he goes, you can't make it an advertisement. Now we can. If you want to make it a commercial, we'll make it a commercial. What do you want to do? You want to inspire people? You want to make it a commercial? I said, let's inspire people. I watched it a couple more times. It's real. Like I'm crying every time.
It's one of the best videos I've ever seen. I mean, it really is. Like
it really is.
I don't know. It's partly the way it's put together and the storytelling, obviously, like you're saying, but then there's Arthur himself of just like the whole thing starts when he comes into the room and his son is just like doing just regular things. And he's like, what is it now? And
those pegs, like,
he's got that on there, and you can tell it's like life is just beating this guy down, and he just doesn't feel good, and nothing is good.
And he's got the canes, and his
belly's out to here.
Yeah.
And his son's asking him like to do something, and he's just like, why? No, I don't want to do that. And it's like any little thing is like at his breaking point. And I don't know what it was about that initial scene, but it was like, wow, that guy's in really bad shape.
Right.
And then over the course of this thing, you see that he's trying. And then what the thing about that is like, it wasn't just like this, Instagram kind of thing where it's like, oh, look, now I can put my leg over my head. It's like, no, he's on his pegs and he falls down on his face. And then he does it again and again and again. But each time it's a little bit better.
Yeah.
And then the next thing you know, at the very end, he's running.
Crazy, man. He loses 140 pounds in 10 months. He's 5'6" and 297. So he loses 140 pounds. More importantly, he lost the knee braces and the back brace that every morning, and the canes. But every morning his wife would pull the sleeves on, put the braces on, attach the braces to the back brace, strap him in, take her 20 minutes. For he can get up and go take a piss. You know what I mean? Like when you see that and really know that. So I tell Steve, I'm like, bro, there's a little clip of me in there. And I said, you called me a yogi. Like I'm like the anti-yogi. He's like, he goes, do you know how many people are going to who own yoga studios are going to put this up on their Facebook wall. And to be honest, no, I have no idea about that in 2012. I have no idea. So then he calls me up. I said, okay, just leave it up there. A lot of times he's really, really smart, Steve. And he just knows he knows how to tell a story, and he knows the music and to get you, because it's like getting emotionally, into the character. Like, who is this person? Like, this is real. I had friends of mine, because in wrestling, everything's a work, right? Everything's fake, to a certain degree, but then not at all,
right?
So like, what's real and what's not? They're like, is this a work? I'm like, no, dude, this is his son, filmed everything. So I go to bed. I got to catch a flight in the morning, and I'm going to Nashville to do this charity thing. And Steve calls me, and now it's 2:00 in the morning, which means it's 5 here in Atlanta. And he goes, bro, we're on Reddit. I go, Reddit? What's Reddit? He's like, I don't know either. He goes, it's something I just found out about. It's like the place that sends things viral. I'm like, what's viral? I didn't know what viral meant back then, right? He said, well, then people start to share it. He goes, we're number 8 on Reddit. I'm like, wow, cool. All right, I'll talk to you in the morning. I go back to bed, calls me up hour and a half later. Now it's like 3:30 in the morning. He's like, I go, bro, I got to sleep. He goes, we're number 1 on Reddit. I'm like, seriously? Okay, that's amazing. I go back to bed. And then I get up and I get on the plane. I'm in TSA. And I get a text from him, and it's a copy of a tweet. And it said something like, stop what you're doing right now and witness real magic. And it's David Copperfield. Yeah. And I'm like, oh my God. He goes, because I could see when orders were coming in, I was like, oh my God, people are really starting to order the program. When I land, it's another one that says, amazing video, starts off slow, well worth the wait. You'll be inspired. Tony Robbins.
Whoa.
And now it's going. Now, here's what happened the week before. And if you want to see Relentless, it's on Amazon Prime. You should also watch Resurrection of Jake the Snake.
Both. Yeah, outstanding.
Both. To really know what I'm doing, and have been for the last 18 years. But when it takes off, and now what we sold in a month, we're selling in a day, and it's only going to double and double. Those DVDs, I had one of my guys who was working with me, was one for us, and then he'd sell some on eBay, and so he was like making his own money off the side. And I was so mad. This is right before I left LA, moved out. And I went down there and got DVDs and sent them to Florida to my buddy Robert McLaren. He'll just sell them from there, never thinking we're going to sell that many. Oh my God, we don't have enough for the first 2 days, and it's only getting bigger and bigger and bigger. So I'm thinking, this isn't a commercial. Like, nothing aggravates people more than you get someone excited about something, and then, oh, I can't get it to you right now.
Right.
And I'm thinking, oh my God, this is going to ruin it. Like, it finally came, and, now everybody's involved. They want to know about it. They want to get it. And I ordered like 40,000 DVDs right then. And I went down to Florida, and it was us packing them up and getting stuff out.
Yeah, that's in the movie.
Yeah, that's powerful. It's all real.
What did that feel like, though, you believed in this so much, and you invest your last 100,000, which could have easily not happened. Right. What does it feel like when it actually happens?
The only thing I can equate it to is, and I got to tell you this is a story. Dusty Rhodes was my mentor, my brother, sometimes my dad. And when I wasn't making it in 94, 95, 96, I'd call him and we'd talk. And sometimes I just, start whining, and bitching. And I know I'm never going to be you, Dusty. I know I'm never going to be Rick. I know I'm never going to be the old Hulk. I know I'm never going to be the world champion. And don't treat me. And he went, Dareth, enough. He really talked like that. And he said, what did you just say? Now I feel kind of stupid, because, well, Dusty, I know I'm never going to be you or Rick or Hulk. No, D, what did you say after that? I said, well, I'm never going to be the world champ, bro. He goes, then what the hell are you doing it for? Dallas, it's hard as you work, as much as you believe in yourself. If you don't believe you're going to be the world champion, you need to get the hell out of the business right now. And I swear to God, I mean, it felt like he reached through and just bitch slapped me. And he kept talking, but it knocked me back. And I can't tell you a thing he said after that, but I know exactly what I did. There was a yellow pad right next to my phone, and I pulled it over. And I wrote on it, I will be the world champion in 5 years or less. It was 4 years, 4 months, and 14 days. Now, the crazy part about this, and the only reason it really is on my mind, I tell this story to people who are looking for inspiration or whatever all the time on my cameos, One day I'm doing this same story to someone in a cameo, and then I go, oh my God. I said to Dusty, 4 years, 4 months, and 14 days before this, I know I'm never going to be you or Rick or Hulk. But on this night that I'm going to become the world champion, I'm stepping in the ring with Rick and Hulk and the franchise, the Stinger.
Wow.
Like, what's the odds of that? Like, you talk about manifesting.
Yeah, that's what it is.
Yeah.
You manifested it. You made it happen. You created it. So that's one of the things, and we could talk stories forever, but I do want to get into what DDP actually is. And
DDP
I know,
yoga?
Yeah, DDPY, what
Right.
DDPY really is and how somebody actually does it. And you were starting to show me the app a little bit ago, but like one of the things that I want to know is like, I mean, in there, you were talking about how you show people how to set goals,
Right.
and how you show people how to visualize, and how you show people how to do these different things, like take the pictures, and then you have these progress pictures. Walk us through what DDPY is and how you do it.
When you open up the app, the first thing you're going to see is the list. The reason why I have thousands of off the charts transformations is because that's the first thing you see. And when you push the list, it's going to give you a video. And the video, I'm going to talk about what the list is. And it's broken down. But when I get done talking, it'll take you to up on the app, right up here, and then it'll go right to user guide, and it goes there, and then there's another video. And I'll said, watch that video, so it tells you where to go and what to do, but then go on down. All right, hold on. Go on down to where it says the list. And when you push the list, well, then that's going to come up. And the first thing it's going to ask you is, what's your why? Like, why are you here?
So important.
And it's so important. And when I wrote down, I'm going to be the world champion in 5 years or less, I always say, just don't think it. Ink it, write it down, put it in your phone, make it an alarm on your phone, burn it into your brain. That's how dreams, become reality, because they become goals that you write down, you burn in your brain, and then you just keep moving forward no matter what. So the reason why I want to know what your why is because I want you to write it down, but even more important, I want you to make a video of it. I want you to video yourself. Everyone's got a phone with a camera. Video yourself, because that's the same person you want to look at later when you lose. Let's say it's 40 pounds, but Now you're not losing weight right now and you're feeling bad and blah, blah, blah. Go back to being that person again who would be so ecstatic if they could lose 40 pounds, if all of a sudden they could do a push-up, if all of a sudden they could do, because see, when your body feels better, your mind feels better no matter what. So it's what's your why? The next thing is SmackDown. That's my goal setting system as an acronym: specific, measurable, achievable, compatible. Keep it going. Do it. Own it. Write it down now. I explain it. I explain how to do it, and I give examples. The next thing on there is our Facebook site. Don't listen to a word that I say about my program. Not a word. Go to Facebook. DDP Yoga, one word. Not two words, one word. A buddy of mine named Chris Gabriano started that with a couple of buddies. Just wanted to talk about the program as they were going through it. Now there's over 70,000 people because it didn't come around. It didn't come about talking about a program. It came about people helping people. And it's something we were talking about before this went on, that when you're helping someone else, like everybody gets depressed, everybody goes down. But before you take the meds, I'm not saying you don't need them or they're not good, but I am saying that before you do, try helping a couple of people. Because that's my life. It's always been my life, though. And whether it was the nightclub business or the wrestling business or DDP Yoga, it's a way that when you're helping someone else, and that's what that DDP Yoga one word is all about. And when you go there and you watch, just when you see people putting up pictures of their worst version of themselves, well, then I got a picture right next. That's a much better version. Mm-hmm. Maybe it's extraordinary.
Most of them look like two completely different people. It's unbelievable.
And I just took them through just what's up today, because that'll be gone tomorrow because there's 70,000 people there. So I join there, just read. Just read what people write. On the app, every Monday's Motivational Monday, where I'm going to come on and tell you something that happened to me, something I saw, something that inspired me. Maybe it's a quote, and then I'm going to elaborate on it. Every Tuesday's a new workout. Every Wednesday's a new cooking show. Every Thursday's a tip of the week. Every Friday is Fabulous Friday, where I go on and I read from what people wrote. Now, over this last 6 weeks, I just did our Positively Unstoppable Challenge winners.
But you got the shirt, right?
This is unstoppable, all right? But the contest is called Positively Unstoppable. You can win $250,000. Not one person gets into it for the money. Not one. We have 6 winners because I couldn't pick 3. Now I call them all champions, and there'll be one grand prize winner. When you see all of them, you're just gonna shake your head like, what? Not one of them came there looking to win money. They came there to positivelyunstoppable.com, because that's where you sign up. First thing I have you do is do the list. It's like common sense there. But they're there for accountability. They're there looking for hope. They're there looking for like-minded people who are a lot of them in the same position.
Sure. Just
different. So once you go through that, then I'm going to give you a lecture I did called Living Life at 90%, based on life's 10% of what happens to you, 90% of how you react to it. I'm going to have you look at a bunch of different of our videos that are going to make you cry. And that's going to move you to emotion, which is going to move you to action. And then I'm going to have you do, like we talked before, take the 6 pictures, take the measurements, take the pain. On the weight part, what's your current weight coming in? What's your goal weight? What are you at right now? So, that's how we track. Because if you track everything, this is all for you. It's not for me. It's for you. Now, if you go in the contest, it's about your physical transformation, just as important, your mental transformation. Yeah. I show you any one of these people over the last 3 years who have been the champions of ours. They are not just different people physically, They are completely different people mentally, and that's why they don't go back. Look at Biggest Loser.
Mm-hmm.
So many of those, they had such unbelievable transformations, but the way they did it was so effed up. And I mean, they tortured the people. I'm about to start a show March 1st, and we are filming it, producing it, everything ourselves. It's going to be Change or Die. That's the name of it.
I like it so far.
And we're bringing in 5 people into the same house that Jake came in and lived with me and Scott Hall, Razor Ramon. And we're going to bring 5 people in, and one of my buddies, Josh, he'll be like the house dad, when I'm not there. But we're going to bring these people in, and we're going to help them. The goal is not just to help them to change their life, it's to help them own their lives. And that brings me to the next thing. I have them read Positively Unstoppable, which is a book I wrote, Positively Unstoppable, The Art of Owning It. That's where the contest comes from. And then I have you watch Relentless, which is on Amazon Prime, Resurrection of Jake the Snake. So then you really see what we're doing. But here's the big part of it. The food. You have no idea what you're eating. Unless you're in this part of the world, about that big, you don't even know what you're eating. Don't listen to me. Watch Food Inc., which won the Oscar in 2007. Watch Genetic Roulette. Watch GMO. OMG. Watch those documentaries. And why I know they work when you take gluten and dairy out of your body, and sugar, which I never push people to do that because it's sugar. But those are the 3 top that cause inflammation in your body. Inflammation causes pain. Inflammation causes stiffness. Inflammation is what makes you feel like shit. That's when you get it out of your body, like those people who move in with me. And 2 of them, a lot of people are going to know. But the other 3 are going to be regular people. And we will put like-minded people together to start. And we don't know how it's going to go because we've never done it. But we know our heart's in the right place, our vision's in the right place, and we have an outline. And from there, things will change. But that's be one of the things that people watch. But it's just educating yourself. That's what the list is about. And then when you get to the workouts, if you get a Bluetooth heart monitor, it hooks up to the workout. At the end of the workout, it shows how long you weren't in the zone, or over the zone. I tell you how many calories you burn. And then all the different motivational stuff. We have cooking shows up there. Like right now, we are putting together a 30-day eating plan for people. On top of that, the cooking shows we have right there. If you eat the food that we're cooking, trust me, you're going to be so much healthier, but it tastes great. I'm not making healthy food that tastes like cardboard.
So one of the things that I wanted to ask, because I'm totally into all this, in the movie Relentless, it talks about you talk to this particular doctor, Eric. Is that right? Eric, what's his name? Fred Bishke.
Fred Bishke.
Right.
Now, Fred Bishke was a nutritionist.
Right. But he talked about food combining.
That's the main thing I do. I don't mix proteins with carbs 90% of my meals. It's all about digestion. So Fred Bishke had developed my version, my phase 3 version is based on Bishke, but not as strict. Because Bishke was really strict.
Yeah.
Like eating food in order and blah, 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 blah. But what it came down to, how does your body digest food? Think about Thanksgiving. Everybody eats everything.
Yeah.
And then they lay on the couch and a lot of people just go,
God, boom. I feel terrible.
But why? Why do people fall asleep? To me, this is a wrestler's version of it, not a doctor's. Your body's going, bump, bump, bump. We can't possibly process all these different foods and all this sugar and all these carbs and the protein and bump, bump. Shut them down. Shut them down. The hardest thing you do is digest food. That's a fact. That's science. So when you don't mix proteins with carbs, in other words, you might have, and there's only a couple carbs that I really recommend, but one of them is sweet potatoes, yams, basmati rice. They're the only ones I really recommend when it comes to carbs. As far as if you're trying to lose weight, and vegetables, or you're going to have protein, chicken, fish, steak. Now, what digests easier, steak or fish? Fish. But it's like, what do you like? Then how big's your steak? Well, if you're eating a 14, 16 ounce steak, not so good for losing weight. You should be eating the size of your palm, because the biggest reason why companies like big Weight Watchers, they have they've gone on forever, and you can still eat garbage and lose weight. Portion control. So what I do is put together foods that are healthy for you, that taste great, with portion control. So now when you don't mix the protein with the carb, your body digests that food so much faster.
So a meal would just be like a chicken breast?
It might be chicken breast.
Your next meal would be
a salad.
Carbs.
Salad. It might be salad. It might be like roasted vegetables. I've got so many vegetables up there.
But you're going to eat your protein at a certain time, and then you're going to eat any carbohydrates, any fat at another time. Well, is that what you're saying?
No, what I'm saying is like, a fat would be avocado.
Yeah.
I'm going to have avocado. I'm going to have the salads that I make.
But you're saying don't mix protein with carbohydrates.
Yeah. So if you're going to have a meal that has vegetables and salad and green and protein, perfect. Get rid of the protein, throw in a yam, a sweet potato, perfect.
But then get your protein requirement for the day at other times where you're just eating protein.
Like maybe it's in the morning, you're eating eggs or shake. These shakes right here, I wanted the white label 10 years ago, Orgain, and it was way back then. It was 7 ingredients. Now it's got about 27, but they're still, it's based on health. It's not as healthy as its first 7, but it's still pretty amazing. Tastes great. And it's economical. Like, they're not charging $57 for, a 2-pound, jar of it. So I'm a big pusher of here's different tastes that they've got in Orgain, because that's what I'm having. And the first 2 meals I had today were protein shakes. I don't really need them. Once in a while, I used to eat 12 eggs every morning when I was wrestling, to get all that protein in. Then I went to 10, then I went to 8, then I got COVID. And then I wasn't really an egg guy anymore, which I couldn't believe. Like, if you told me, if you're going to eat one meal, what would it be? Eggs. I'll eat them 3 times a day, So what I was really surprised at, I got rid of the eggs and I replaced it with steel cut oats and berries. I look the same. I'm actually stronger right now, and no eggs. I eat my 1 or 2 shakes. And I'll have a nice meal. Dinner, it'll only be like a chicken breast. I'm not overeating anymore. You remember, I'm not a guy bodybuilding and trying to jack up. If I was trying to really jack up, I'd be eating those 8 to 10 eggs. Right. I'd be eating all that. But
I mean, there's a lot of, your goals and if you are trying to, be a power lifter and you're trying to set some kind of record, that is a different kind of record. But mostly what your program is designed for and really targeted towards people that, or you've at least, I don't know if it's necessarily targeted towards that, it's probably targeted towards everyone, but you've had incredible success with people that are going to have a really hard time doing other things. Running is out of the question.
Right.
Swimming may even be out of the question. Aerobics are out of the question. Playing tennis is out of the question. Right. I mean, like for Arthur, when he first started,
couldn't do any of that.
None of it.
Yeah.
And some people feel so hopeless, and some people even feel hopeless when their knees bothering them and they can't run.
Right.
And all they've been doing for the last 30 years is running.
Right.
And they're like, oh, I have no idea what to do now that I can't run. The next thing you know, their whole life gets in a mess because that was their outlet. That was,
their stress release.
So much more than just their exercise,
yes,
right?
They don't even realize
and so now, like, they feel bad and they're getting stressed because they had this hour of moving meditation that's gone now. They replace it with eating. They replace it with something else. And the next thing you know, their life is totally in a different place than it was just because of a knee injury.
Well, what I've found is that once I get people doing my program and they start because this is the glue. And for anybody who's out there, and I know you're a big part of this right here, if you're doing any kind of CrossFit, that is like so hard on your body. It's great. It makes you feel strong and unstoppable, but you need the glue. You need the glue. This becomes your cardio and your glue. Now, if you're someone who's just beat up and they can't run, they can't do this anymore. I've had guys who started with 475 pounds, get down to 260 pounds, and they're back to doing jujitsu again.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because now they feel great, but they're still in their 50s.
Right. That changes everything. That changes someone's entire life when you can get back to doing something that you love and that you thought you weren't going to do anymore.
You just have to do it smarter.
Right.
It's just about training. You train as we get older. And the greatest example is Mark Allen, who was 35 years old. That's not old.
Right.
We know now that's not old at all. But he still had to change the way he trained to perform at the highest apex of being an athlete. When you're doing the Hawaiian Ironman, there's nothing harder than that tour is going to be with the water and the biking and the running. Oh my.
Yeah, he did it, and it did it awesome. I mean, like to come back and really rewrite kind of people's expectations on age. He's one of the first people to do that. Now Tom Brady's doing it right in front of our eyes, and it's like, you just love that. It's like, and Tom Brady, like, the reason he's doing that is a lot of the same principles that you have. Like, he pays so much attention to his diet. He has a body specialist that comes over and is doing massage and stretching and all this stuff. And he's putting so much attention on that year round, like all the time. Not when he's injured, not when he's beat up, like all the time.
Like when we went in and we looked at my hyperbaric chamber, my infrared sauna, there's a steam room, there's a hot tub. Like, when I talk to smart athletes who are professional athletes and they're over 32, when I say, what do you do when you're not, doing what you do? The words that should come out of their mouth is rehab, like constant rehab, so I can still do this thing I want to do. Yeah. And if you're just a weekend warrior, you're gonna need to do rehab.
Well, that's the same thing with the audience, like that listens to this show. What do you do when you're not hunting or fishing or hiking in the woods or camping or being you if you want to do those things, which are very physical things,
sure, big time,
have to put in the work, because I'm a big use it or lose it guy. If you don't use it, you're going to lose it. And what you've got is really incredible. And I do have some other things, and I know you're a super busy guy.
Dude, I'm here for whenever
I want to thank you for your time, but I do have some questions I want to ask you at the end. But I just want to finish up about DDPY and how somebody does that. So they get this app.
Get the app.
They follow the eating program. They follow the workouts. They get on the list. They watch all of the things.
Yeah, when they get on the app, and you can try it for 7 days, it costs you nothing. Just go to ddpy.com or ddpyoga.com. And the bottom line is, the first thing you should do is look at the list and understand like all the things that are on there. Then go to your workouts. And when you go to the program, like our workouts, you can't say they're too hard, even though we did a pretty intense
we did
workout.
A very hard one.
Yeah, we did a very hard one.
But you, on your app, you show, like, there's green, I think is the easiest.
Yeah,
green all the way to red.
Right.
And you can pick and choose. And then you rate the workout after, which I thought was pretty cool, that it's like, well, this one was really, really hard. Well, maybe that was too challenging for you right now. Maybe you'll get to that later, but just step it back a little bit.
100%.
And so your app is really easy to follow. And I have a lot of different types of apps, whether they're tracking apps for nutrition or workout apps or any of that kind of stuff. That's one of the easiest I've ever seen to follow.
And one of the things I like to point out to people is like, you can't tell me it's too hard because they start off in bed.
Yeah, they do though.
They do.
That's what it sounds like a joke, but it does.
Right.
Like you can truly, if you can move. Like that's what the knees over toes guy says. Do you know that guy?
Yes.
He's doing some great work as well as you are.
Yeah.
But he's like, if you can walk, you can improve your knees.
100%.
Right. And he shows you all these different progressions to do things, and that's where your thing is like if you can wake up and open your eyes, you can improve your health and you can improve your mobility, and we'll start in bed. And that's incredible.
And then that's called bed flex. Then sit in a chair, and I can get your heart rate jacked up sitting in a chair. Then you strengthen your body so you can stand, chair. Then you just use the chair. Now, here's the beauty of the chair. And I had this one guy, Mike Evans. His son played, and his dad played the NFL. And his dad played across from Butkus, back when he played for Philadelphia Eagles. And he was 72. And I was like, Mike, use the chair. No, I don't want the chair. I go, Mike, use the chair. I'm going to use the chair. Use the chair with me. Bottom line is I finally got him to use the chair. 5 weeks later, he sends me a text. He goes, DDPY alert. Mike Evans wiped his butt for the first time in 5 years.
Holy cow. What was happening for 5 years?
Well, you got to get around it.
Oh, jeez.
Got to get it. You still, there's ways to do it,
Yeah. Wow.
But just like, the guys, it changes life.
Yeah.
Changes life.
But in that, like a lot of people that are, tough guys, football players, whatever, they're so resistant to the idea that regression is actually progression. Like
100%.
That if you're using that chair, you are using muscles to get up. You're bending your knees in ways that you were not bending your knees before. You are moving in a way that you were not moving before. And that then you can slowly start to get away from the chair, and then you can slowly start to stand up on your own, and then you can be
and balance.
Yeah, all of that.
As you get older, the first thing we lose is balance. So I get you in lunges and stuff, and on your toes, and how to work it. And if you're using the chair, now you can do any of the workouts. Once you learn, and the first thing every time I take you in a workout, I don't take you right to the workout, except for in bed. But once you get to the chair, to standing, to up to the regular workouts, there's a dime a dozen, right? Break down every move that you're going to do all the time. And then it becomes easier for you. And that's really what I want. I want it to be easy and fun so you can see the results yourself.
Well, it obviously works. That's awesome, man. Well, kudos to you for creating that. There's a tremendous amount of work that goes into creating it for yourself, and then transferring it over to something that's easy to understand, that you communicate well, that people can understand and follow. Because there are plenty of exercise programs and different lifestyle programs that absolutely would work, but they're so freaking complicated that nobody, I feel the same thing about teaching somebody how to fly cast. I listen to some people talk about how to do the fly ride, and I'm like, my God, you need a calculator and all this other stuff. It's like, no, it's not that hard, man. You just stop here and you stop here, and that's it.
Right.
Don't overcomplicate it. And that's what you've done, is you've been able to really simplify this, but then communicate that effectively over and over and over again. And that, you're not fooling me. That took a lot of refinement and work, and probably a lot of times where you're talking to people and you're like, oh, I see their eyes glazing over. Like, okay, I gotta refine my approach here, because
you want to know what the biggest thing I did? I'll give you the best example. Tito Ortiz.
Oh,
right
in our world here.
Yeah, good buddy of mine, and so I met him at a gentleman's club.
Really? Tito Ortiz would be at a gentleman's club?
Yeah,
that is so strange.
In Vegas. And I was, one of my championship times. They weren't all that long, but they were fun to have. But I was a champ at that time. And he was the guy coming, he was making a name for himself, going into 99, 2000. I don't remember exactly the year that we ran into. I think it was 99. And what I read this thing on Sports Illustrated, one of the columns, and they were asking, what are some of the defining moments in your life? And he brought up this time where we met each other at the Peppermint Rhino. And he said, and I really wanted to be a part of professional wrestling. And Diamond Dallas Page talked me out of it. And one of the things I said to him, I'm like, dude, everything's cyclical. And we just had our biggest run, and it's not as good as it was last year or the year before, but it's still good, but it's cyclical. And what you guys are a part of right now, I think you have potential just because you're not afraid to be the heel. You like being the bad boy, and you're getting that from wrestling. I get it. And you really need to stay there because you're about to do some really cool stuff.
And he's the foundation. Right? He's the foundation of the UFC.
He was.
Chuck Liddell.
Yes,
those
Chuck
fights,
Liddell. Chuck Liddell does my program.
Yeah.
But let me tell you in a second. Let me tell you this. So I say to Tito, I go, man, it was really cool that you told the story the way it actually happened. And he goes, of course I'm going to, D. I really appreciate that guidance. And I said, listen, I know you just got back surgery. I said, you need to be doing my program. I promise you. That's why I never had back surgery, even though I ruptured my L4 and L5. I can help you with this. He goes, come on down. So I went down there. And back then, where people, you're part of, this is a yoga world. I go, it's not yoga, but they thought it was going to be airy-fairy. So back then, I brought it a lot. I brought the hard shit. So I asked Tito, and I respect the story. I said, so I can make this just a beginner level, just show you some stuff. I can make it a little more intermediate. I can do at whatever level you want. And he looked at me, goes, just bring it. I go, no, you want me to really bring it? He goes, bring it.
Of course he did.
Of course I did. We get done with that workout. Okay. It was a hard workout and he struggled at points, but of course he got through it. Right. And I was a beast back then with that, with bringing that shit. And it was not the smartest idea because never got back to doing it. Didn't return 3 different phone calls. So I just let it go. Now I'm up. He's in Bellator and I'm up for the fight. It's in Memphis. Michael Chandler's a good buddy of mine. So I was up there to see him fight. Eddie was fighting Eddie Alvarez at the time. And the door opens in the elevator and there's Tito. He's like, DDP! Gives me a big hug. I go, say something, bitch. I said, you never called me back after, we got together to work out. He goes, I got to be honest with you, D. It was too hard. I said, you're saying it was too hard? He goes, I'm being honest. He goes, that shit was hard. And I realized right there, I'm never doing that again. I'm never going to bring it. I'm going to bring it up to where, where I took you to where you could have gone farther, but I didn't want you to walk out going, man, that kicked my ass. I wanted to heal my body.
Leave them hungry.
Right.
Leave them where they come back. That's the same thing with fishing. You take somebody fishing, my daughter says, hey, Dad, I want to go fishing. Well, if you take her out on a 16-hour marathon day, she's like, that's the last time I'm ever doing that. It rained. It snowed. You didn't bring any food. We caught nothing until the last hour.
Right.
No. That was horrible. Why would anyone want to do that? No, man, you go out for a half day.
Yeah.
And she's like, I want to stay out longer. Oh, next time,
Yeah.
you leave them wanting a little bit more. But man, Tito Ortiz, he's a fisherman. He loves to fish. And I want to get him on the podcast. I've been a big fan of Tito Ortiz.
You got his number?
No, but I will after this.
Yeah. I'll
we have mutual friends. Clay Guida is do you know Clay Guida is a fighter, UFC fighter. He's probably been in the octagon more than anyone else. He needs to do your program because he's aging. He is he turned 40 the other day,
Really?
and he's still fighting. And
okay, I know who you're talking about. Okay,
looks like the caveman. He's awesome. But anyway, Clay loves to fish, like more so than anyone. And he's been on the show, and he's been on this podcast, and he's been on our TV show and everything. And he knows Tito real well. So maybe we'll get hooked up there.
Well, I just want to finish this. Chuck, he started, stops, stop, and he's telling everybody about it because he loves it. So now I'm his accountability partner.
Nice.
Every week I call him. He's such a great guy. I love him. He's got 2 weeks in.
He should have some amazing muscle memory. I remember watching Chuck Liddell, and he would walk into the deal, and he's just looking like this, and then he would take his leg and he would put it on top of the octagon, and he would just kind of stretch into it like that, like it was nothing. And he rarely did any big high kicks like that. He was a standing, slugger, but he had flexibility that was unbelievable. You would see him put his leg. I mean, the top of the octagon is really tall.
That's high,
and he would just put it up there and just stretch into it like it was nothing. But what awesome. That's cool. Okay, so I'd like to finish up this whole deal with just a couple of questions, and I kind of have started asking kind of similar questions to everybody, and it's just kind of interesting to hear different people's opinion. And we don't have to spend much time on these, but
I love this shirt, dude. I just realized what that said. Mindset is everything.
That's what it's all about, man.
Everything. The story you tell yourself, that inner voice. Go ahead, ask a question.
No.
My favorite.
This is the important part. Like that may be a question. Tell me what mindset is to you.
Well, I read a quote. And I was on Brainy Quote on there one day, and I saw this quote, and it was called, "The repetitions of affirmations leads to belief. And once that belief becomes a deep conviction, things begin to happen." And then I looked, and I saw who said it. And I was like, oh, my God, I know his affirmation. I am the greatest. I'm the greatest of all time. Who's that?
Muhammad Ali?
I can tell you. This guy right here.
That's so awesome.
This one here, that's the second time I met him. He was so cool to me. The first time he says, "Diamond, lock up." Is that great? Is that great?
That's so awesome.
So how did you know that?
How did I know what?
How'd you know his affirmation? How'd you know that was him?
Because I just know that. I study these things.
Yeah, but you've heard him say it a million times.
Right.
A million times.
He convinced the whole world of that after he convinced himself of that.
But he'd been already, he was saying it when he was a kid.
Right.
You know what I mean? So the repetitions of affirmations leads to belief. And once that belief becomes like that work ethic, deep conviction, things begin to happen.
Big things.
It's like when I went for my Hall of Fame speech, I wrote a 27-minute speech. And I didn't really realize I had notes on my iPad, There's going to be 20,000 people there. It's like the whole arena where they take over a whole 20,000 seat arena. I hadn't been in front of a crowd like that where millions of people are watching on TV. I'm going to deliver a 27-minute speech. What am I thinking? What if my iPad breaks down? Like, that could have been my voice because it tried to creep in. I bitched that, slap that voice because there's only one voice in my brain. This is going to be the greatest day of my professional wrestling career. I'm going to blow everyone away. I'm going to make them laugh. I'm going to make them cry. I'm going to inspire them. The best thing I've ever done. It's 2017. If you go in Peacock and pull up Hall of Fames, Eric Bischoff gives me an unbelievable introduction. And I went out there and it was the best thing I've ever done. But that's the only voice. My 4 daughters are walking out with me, and Rachel's like, what if I fall? What if I trip? I don't go, honey, you're going to be fine. People are coming up to me and I'm hearing what Bischoff saying, but in between me listening to anything, that's the only voice in my brain. And mindset is everything. The story you tell yourself. That's what Positively Unstoppable, the art of owning it is all about. It's all about it. Owning this 6-inch piece of real estate in between your ears. Mindset is everything.
It's everything.
It's everything.
It's my favorite t-shirt. I have 2 of them. Okay. So something in your world that you see, and it could be your wrestling world, it could be your acting world, it could be the people that are DDPY customers, it could be anything in your world. Something that sticks out that people are doing wrong that you see as it's very easy. Like why do people not see this? This is how you do it.
But I just spoke about, mindset and helping Jake get through his coke and booze and pills and crack and the shame. It's helping people see through the shame. That's, it's hard because it all becomes about shame because they've done something else that's embarrassed them or their family or whatever. But mostly people, if we take it on, just have nothing to do with, it's always addiction, because addiction to food, addiction to health, addiction to drugs, addiction to booze, addiction to gambling. It's an addiction. So parenting yourself, discipline is the truest form of self-love. It's about the pleasures that are instant, pushing them off for the bigger rewards to come. Discipline is about loving yourself and giving yourself everything you ever wanted. So that, to me, when you can start to really discipline yourself, and that's what I call about owning it. And that's what that DDP yoga page, I write that all the time. Way to go, girl. You're owning it. Great job. Way to put the work in. You're owning it. That to me is the thing that I watch it happen every day, but I know 90% of the people out there in that spot, they never see it because they're not right here. They're not watching something like this. And that's what it takes. It needs a blip, then there's another blip, and then it needs to be thrown in your face, and then you got to pursue it. People say, how do you stay so positive? I work at it.
Well,
I caught
that's
that.
What it takes.
That's what it takes. Working at it.
Okay, cool. It's still going.
Yeah, it's still going. Move my legs over here.
Okay. All right. So, okay. 2 to 3 things you do on a daily basis that contribute to your success.
Take care of my body as far as like the chamber, my workouts, de-stress myself. I eat really healthy and I help people.
Love it. Okay. What about, are there a couple of books, maybe one, maybe a couple of books that you've read that have had a massive impact on your life?
I think Think and Grow Rich was probably, Napoleon Hill, I would say, because he's really, after that, because everybody who's inspirational, they all steal from Napoleon.
Yeah.
I was just talking to my wife the other night about, one of my favorite stories is 3 feet from goal. Now 3 feet, God, now I can't remember the beginning of it. 3 feet. I can't remember that. It's a destiny or whatever, but 3 feet from victory, let's call it. And it's about this, this guy who's, the big, everybody's moving out west, gold, going for gold. And he gets out there and he finds a gold. He finds a mine, not a mine, but a vein. And he covers it all up and he goes back to, Baltimore or wherever, somewhere on the East Coast, and he raises the money and he goes back and he does all this, mining, and he pays for all this stuff, and he starts going and going and going and going and doesn't really hit. He never finds that gold again, and he just keeps going and he keeps going. And then he finally can't do it anymore. You know, it's just like running out of money. You know, this isn't going to happen. So he sells it to another company and he leaves 3 feet from gold. It was literally 3 feet from him. But what they did, it's all how you attack something. You just can't go into something and go, I'm going to do this, this, and this, and this. Like sit back and go, what's the plan? What's your goals? What are you, how are you designing where you're going? This guy brought in a, company that did, the geology parts of it. And, just keep going that way. Yep. Boom. And it was the biggest strike that ever happened. So I just have that, like that video, that audio book thing. And occasionally in my car, I'll just pop on any one of those stories. And they're all super powerful because Napoleon Hill, he worked for Carnegie, coming up for 20 years. He got to be around Thomas Edison and Henry Ford and all these guys who were mega minds. And, talk about Henry Ford being how one of the newspapers called him ignorant because he only has 6th grade education. Right. But when he sued them and he's got a phone there and he gets up there in the stand and he says that, I don't know how anyone could call me ignorant because on my little speaker button here, if I need to know something about friggin' thermo energy, I don't care what it is. He knows nothing about it. I push that button. I want to know something about law. I push that button. I want to know something about mechanics. I push that button. I have everyone at my accessibility to have all that knowledge.
Yeah, he had Google before Google was Google.
He was Google before it was Google. And, one of my favorite quotes by Henry Ford is, and I don't want to tell people in the beginning, I say, if you say you can or you say you can't, you're right. And then I'll say, Henry Ford said that. But what the hell did he ever do?
Yeah, right. Yeah, right. That's one of my favorite quotes too.
It's so true though.
Yeah. Okay. So more personal note due to my research for this. Of the list that I'm gonna read, which do you find the most rewarding? Your acting career, being a world champion in wrestling, getting DDPY started and all the people that you've helped, or learning how to read when you're 30 some odd years old?
Personal would be learning how to read. And it took a long time for that to happen. It was so funny. My wife said, wow, you're reading really good. You're getting better and better. I mean, still at this time, because I practice all the time. But the thing I'm the most proud of is the resurrection of Jake Snake. Because there was a moment where we didn't know, because we'd never put like WWE footage in anything we did where we put it out as a documentary, because we hadn't put out a documentary yet. And I originally went to them and asked if I could use the footage. And they were like, oh, I'm sure it's not going to be a problem, blah, blah, blah. And then this woman came back to me who was at the time running part of the network. And she was like, Dallas, no, we can't give you permission to use it. I didn't need permission. I didn't because they have I forget what it's called. It's not called Equal Nations, but it's called something where you can use it if you're explaining what it's about.
Okay.
And then you can use that. And that's all a documentary is explaining about who is this person. And so I had a big decision because this was 3 years before I would go in the Hall of Fame. And this is before we knew Jake was going to go in the Hall of Fame. Right. And I said, Steve said, if we do this, you might get a lot of heat and, it might keep you out of the Hall of Fame. And that's what happens. And that meant a lot to me for my wrestling. That's as much as it could mean. And because no matter what, it's not like the Oscar, it's a world championship. Hall of Fame's the Hall of Fame.
Right.
And there's only a select group of guys in that, no matter what, of the tens of thousands of wrestlers that there's been. So it was more important to me what Jake and I went through together with Steve and Linda and Dylan and Garrett and my whole crew. You know, one of the things we haven't talked about, but I want to get it in now. If you want to check out DDP's Snake Pit,
your new podcast.
Our podcast, we've been #1. We've been up for 3 weeks now. We're in our just been our 3rd week, and for the last 3 weeks we've been #1 or #2 for the last, because that's however they do that.
It's awesome.
Yeah, which is really cool. It means people are watching and it's growing, and it's super cool to that people. It's the only wrestling show that's not completely wrestling. Kind of like maybe half the time talk about it.
Well, there's also old stories. Like I listened to one on the way up here, and there's like the stories of how you guys met and everything, which are super interesting to somebody that knew that time period. And like, a lot of the wrestling shows are probably about today's wrestling, and
there are a lot of them are negative. And the big thing, because Steve, you've heard me talk about a couple times today. Steve's one of the producers while we're filming. And you have to understand how bad Jake was. Like, all you have to do is go watch the beginning of the resurrection to really understand, because of the booze.
Yeah.
Of 30 years plus, the coke, the crack, the pills, it creates such a fog. And that's what people need to know, that it doesn't have to be like that. And Jake, me and Steve are leaving our first filming of Jake in Gainesville, Texas. And as we're driving away, he goes, "So what do you think?" I was like, "Man, I don't know." I said, "I never would believe that he was in that bad a shape." And the real shame is, Steve, I said, "I don't know if I will ever be able to have a real conversation with my mentor, with my brother again." And then we got through Resurrection. There was points during Resurrection when I would go, "Jake, if you're thinking of saying something, like just off the top of your head or blurting it out, say the opposite, no matter what it is. Say the opposite." Like, that's how bad it was at one point. Then Jake got sober. And within 2 years, I saw a different Jake. And in 2 more years, I saw a different Jake. And the guy that I know for the last 3 years, first of all, sharp as a tack. Been hitting the head a few times, so not clear on all dates, but neither am I, But he's the best storyteller ever. And he now does one-man shows. Before COVID, he was doing them all over the place. And he's working back with AEW. They love him.
That's got to make him feel so good to be able to like tell those stories and talk about it from this other place of like, that's where I used to be.
Right.
If I was still like that, I'd be dead.
No, 100%.
No doubt about it.
100%. And the thing that Steve came up to me, because we'd put like 6 of them in the can, and we're on episode 3 right now. And after the second episode, Steve came up to me and he was like, "Man," he goes, "they're so inspirational, because when we tell a story, there's like there's a reason for the story. It's not just a story. Like, what did we learn out of that story? Like, they're so positive." He goes, "I would never believe that Jake could be so inspirational," because he knows. Here's one of the funny things is, when we first started filming Resurrection, the first 5 days, because he had to go on the road for the weekend. The first 5 days, Jake cleaning up, he's doing the dishes. I mean, he's the model, the most perfect house guest ever. And Steve walks up to me, and he doesn't really know Jake like I know Jake Snake. I know like the dark one, the one where we're out in the club one night, and he pops a pill in his mouth, and I go, "Jake," I go, "was that a Percocet? Did you just chew that up? They taste like shit." He goes, "Yeah." I go, "Why would you do that?" He said, "Well, when you chew them up, it goes right to your brain," which is true. I said, "But you've taken a few of them. How many was that?" He goes, "I don't know, 9, 10,
Jeez.
right? So that guy, I know that guy. So he says to me, he goes, Jake has been amazing. And not there's anything bad with that, but we're filming a documentary. And if there's no drama, and he goes, well, there's at some point there'll be drama. I go, Steve, remember you said that. So he saw all the dark sides of Jake.
I'm sure that he did, and it comes out in that movie too.
Yeah.
Like he slips.
He
couple
slips,
times.
yep, and we show it.
Yeah,
and he couldn't watch it. Tommy, he couldn't watch it for the longest time, but he had to because now we're going out with it, right? And it hurt him. He was embarrassed. But after a couple of years, when you got little kids coming up to you and hugging you, they only know you from that and that you brought their dad back.
wow.
Bringing my family back together, like I get choked up just thinking about it, heavy. So that is my finest moment. That and that DDP yoga page, like what's on there and who those people are and how they all help each other. Like, I didn't even think anything like that could exist.
Yeah. It's awesome, man.
Powerful.
I knew I was going to enjoy this. I really did. And the other question, well, there's a couple others, but the one that I kept thinking about all the way up here, like, why are you doing this? Like, why are you sitting here right now with me? You don't know me. You're not a fisherman. You hadn't been watching my show on TV. You don't know anything about me. But yet, I ask you if you'd do this, and you have given me, 4 hours of your day. You've invited me into your home. You've taken me through your workout. I could have been anyone. Like, I think that if any guy that has a podcast in his basement had called you and said that they wanted to do this, I really believe that you would have taken them through there.
Well,
why are you doing this? Why do you do that?
For starters, you were vetted, by Marlon.
Okay.
Because my buddy Marlon is one of my closest friends, and I do get everybody want me,
Sure.
to do it, and I just don't have the time or the voice. Because one of the things that we didn't even talk about is I blew my voice out so bad a few years ago. They were talking about putting a box,
really?
which was really scary. Yeah, it was bad. So I really had to back off. But, when I find someone, because he showed me and I said, yeah, absolutely. I look at like, what do you do? Who are you? And do I want to talk to you? And I just liked what you were doing. And I do like fishing. I like going out. I don't want the seas too high. One of my best friends, who I told you when we were down in Panama City Beach, my buddy Jeff Lucas and his wife, Teresa, they are unbelievable. And we went out with their two good friends and they got a killer boat. And these guys are hardcore. They're like you, dude.
Mm-hmm.
They love it. It's only going to be 1 to 3 feet seas. So we're cool. They were 7 to 9.
Yeah, that's only so much fun.
And
it's like wrestling Randy Savage.
Right. And I still will go back out because I want to eat. There's not,
Yeah.
Like eating fish that you get at Whole Foods is nothing compared to eating fish that you just caught.
Right.
I mean, the first time my ex-father-in-law, Kimberly's dad, he had come back and he just caught some grouper and he was like, so do you want some? I'm like, sure. I was like, I've never tasted grouper like this before.
Right. It's amazing.
And then I became addicted to it. So if I went down to whether it was Destin or wherever I went, I would always want to go out one of those days and go out and catch them, come back and eat them. So I appreciate the art. I'm not as loving it if I want to go out every day, but I want to go out and do it because first of all, it's fun. I've never been on one of those Marlin ones. I definitely want to try that.
Yeah.
And when I just don't wear this when I'm out there, I'm wearing the hoodie, my sleeves.
Yeah, you got to.
I'm completely covered up.
I mean, most guides, like almost every single fishing guide in the Florida Keys wears one of those on their face. I mean, it's just a mandatory deal. Well, we're going to go fishing.
Yes, absolutely.
We'll make that happen. That'll be fun.
That's a fact.
So there's one more thing that is a ongoing theme on this podcast, and it's been an ongoing theme in my life. And I just wonder what you think about this, and I'm not even going to explain it very much. But if there was a phrase, weakness is strength, what does that mean to you?
I always tell people never, don't ever, God, what's the word I'm looking for? Don't confuse kindness for weakness. Like when you're being kind, that doesn't mean I'm weak. And in what you just said, sometimes you need to be weak. You need to let go to get stronger, and sometimes you got to fail. Like I've failed so many times, on my way. Like it makes you one step closer to not failing. And once people really understand that, that's when the shift happens, and they're not just changing their life, they're owning their life. I use that a lot because it's so powerful. Like no one can tell me what to do. I'm independently taken care of, wealthy. I can do what I want to do. I'm doing this because I want to do it.
Right.
And I like what, the people you were talking to. And I'm thinking, yeah, man, a lot of those guys need this, and girls, they need this. And so if there's an avenue to share the word, like one of my biggest goals, like if I die tomorrow, DDPY explodes because of all the stories, because people never want to praise you or whatever, or put your stories out there until you die. Then they want to talk about all the good shit you did, but I plan on living a long time and being able to do all the things that I can do, from holding my foot over my head, when I'm 97 years old. That's my goal. And, for doing what I'm doing, I want to make it a household name. Because I know whether, like you said, I know you probably think it's for everybody, but these people get the most out of it. And that's pretty much your audience right now. Yes. But this is for the athlete, the professional athlete that's smart enough to understand preventative maintenance. Because when you understand preventative maintenance, well, then you understand, like every single guy in the NFL, every single guy is one injury away from the career being over. Now, if you're not, Zach Prescott or, or Mahomes or, you can get injured and you'll have a shot to come back. But if you're like Reggie, remember when he blew that knee out when he was playing for Washington and he came right back? Now he's a color commentator, because done. This is the glue that'll help from the professional athlete stay in the game. Oh, stay in the game another year and you can make another $4 million, because come out, you might make 60,000.
Right. Yeah.
How do you reinvent yourself again? Did you save your money?
There's only so many color commentators.
Yeah, there's only so many color commentators.
You know what I mean? Like that's a pretty competitive deal.
100%,
right?
man. 100%.
You need a name, Tim Tebow or something like that. Like you're competing with that. Like you're right. Like that is the case. But my journey this year has been around this stretching program, and much of what we did is very, very similar to what I've already been doing. Thankfully, so I could
I was
do some of
blown
your
away.
stuff.
You could do some of it,
but it's a year of torture. But it is winding the clock back. It is absolutely like winding the clock back. So anyway, man, I know you've given me a tremendous amount of your time, and I just want to honor you for first of all, invite me to your home. It's super cool. Like, it's unbelievable. I'm sitting in here looking at all these pictures of you with every celebrity and wrestler I've ever heard of in my life. So that's super cool, and give me this much time. But you've helped a tremendous amount of people, and you should be commended for that. But what I noticed when I watch your films, and what I notice when I look into your story more, is that you really stand by people. You stand by the people that are by you, whether that's Jake the Snake, or whether it's Steve, or whether it's Arthur,
Right.
or whether it's like you've built this business around people that were there in the beginning. You didn't replace those people and move on.
Right.
You've done that, and you've done that over and over and over and over again. And man, to me, that's pretty awesome.
Thank you.
That you do that.
It's all about your relationships. I tell people all the time, it's not about who you know or who knows you. It's about who's willing to say they know you. Who's willing to pick up the phone and make that call for you, which I do all the time. I call people who get my program every day. There's someone I call that's either was doing it or they just got it. One of my favorite calls ever was, this is how it goes. Hey, I think her name was Bonnie. And by the way, 68% of the people who get the program are men, so this was this woman, Bonnie. And I said, hey, Bonnie, I go, hello, is Bonnie there? And she's like, yes. I go, hey, Bonnie, it's DDP. Who?
What DDP are you referring to?
I said, Diamond Dallas Page, didn't you just get DDP yoga? You're calling me? She goes, I just hit send. But it comes up on my phone, and I always look, who's the last person to get it? That's my first call. And I always do *67 because I don't know who I'm calling. Right. And so she goes, oh my God. She goes, I can't believe you called me. She goes, I go, I just was curious, Bonnie. First of all, I want to thank you. I try to call a couple of people every day and thank them for getting the program. I said, can you tell me what brought you to this? And this is crazy, but I hear it so many times. I saw that disabled veteran that you helped, Arthur. I saw it about 5 years ago. Then I saw this other person that you helped. And I was like, God, I got to try it. And I go, that's awesome. That's so cool. Who's the other person? And you'll say Christina or whoever that person was. And then she goes, I have to be honest with you. I have to really be honest with you. She goes, my job is I debunk companies. Mm-hmm. She goes, and I've got to be honest. She said, I saw the thing with Arthur. I saw the thing with Christina. I saw this, I saw that. And I'm like, there is no way this guy there's got to be something negative. Mm-hmm. And she goes, and I'm ashamed to admit it right now. She goes, but it's what I do. She goes, I looked and I looked and I looked and I couldn't find anything. So I said, I have to get it. And now you're calling me.
Wow. That's a good call.
It was great, man. It was great. And then I'll just call somebody who lost like 30 pounds who I see on that site. Like there's a woman, I just friggin' contacted my buddy Robert before you got on. I said, get me this girl's number because I'm going to call her and just say, hey, blah, blah, blah. Great job. Keep up the great work.
So awesome. Building such a good community. I mean, you really are like that community, and it's gotten bigger than you. So
it is.
I mean,
way bigger.
If anything happens to you, or you go and do something else, and you get your new show takes off, and you got to spend another bunch of time, filming that. This keeps going.
Yeah, it keeps going. It takes care of itself at this point. But again, I want to make it a household name because I know it's going to help so many people. It's going to be mine from your grandma to your son who's playing soccer. To what do you need, Paigey? Water? Or should I need water? Thank you, wife. Just to everybody in general, because they can family stuff, mm-hmm. Family stuff, super powerful.
Awesome, man. All right, DDP, thank you.
Thanks you for coming, brother. You're awesome.
Thank you.
We're going to become bros.
Yeah, we are. We were before we even started.
Yes.
All right, that's it for this week. We'll see you next week.